foundation of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning. Glad to have you on board. If you're joining us live on our website, glad to have you. Of course, you can always find our program at americasvoicenow.org. You can either listen to it on audio or video, your preference. I see a whole ton of folks out there this morning. I'm glad to see you guys out there in Roxborough. Not quite sure where that is. Looks like someplace in Maryland. Somerville. Not quite sure where Somerville is either. Let's see. Wills Point, Sioux Falls, Lincoln. I see Albuquerque out there. Mission Viejo. I see a number of folks down there in Texas and in Florida area. Again, Chicago and the upper Midwest. Glad to have you guys on board. If not, and you're catching us on Patriot FB, that's great news. If you're listening to us on the Rooster, this is pre-recorded, so you will not be able to interact live with the program. But you're always welcome to catch us live, 8 to 10 a.m. Central Time on America's Voice Now. We're going to cover 4 different topics this morning, which is our normal process, if you will. And you know, I post this stuff up on our Facebook page and up on our YouTube, or up on our website and up on Patriot FB, so that you have an idea of what the show topics are for a given day. And today we're going to cover the topic of a teachers union contract that blatantly exposes their prejudice. I mean, wait until you hear the amazing violation of basically the law in a contract. You know, it's illegal for a contract to break the law in a contract. You cannot have a document that is of the law that violates the law while attempting to enforce some portion of an agreement between people. I mean, you and I cannot go out and create an agreement and a contract in writing that says we're going to go rob a bank together and you're going to drive the getaway car and I'm going to hold the gun. Not an enforcer. I mean, we can do that. But if we bring it before the court and I say, Your Honor, he didn't drive the getaway car, he ran away, and that's why I got caught, they're not going to give me dispensation from going to jail for that. I mean, it's incredible. Anyway, there's a teachers union agreement out there that says special consideration will be given to non-Christians and racial minorities. Now, that's a violation of non-Christian, or Christians and non-Christians, frankly, and their right to be under equal treatment under the law. And secondarily, a preferential consideration that is given to racial minorities is a violation of the law under anti-prejudice rules. So I don't get it, and I don't understand how a union could actually be stupid enough to put that in writing. I also don't understand why the American people are not smart enough to go after them in court and fight that, irrespective of how much the Justice Department would jump to their defense, which brings it to light a whole nother argument of why is the government supporting and defending a private company, but whatever. Our second topic is going to be the GOP and Democrats have the exact same goals, namely your enslavement. And that brings to mind an article which I found on FT.com about the rise of the surprising rise of the Republican Party, and another one by CNSnews.com of Republicans say not what they're running against, but not what they're running for. And the reason that this is an issue is because as we come forward into 2014 in the elections, it's apparent, or it should be apparent to anyone, that neither party represents us anymore. They now represent themselves in the parties. And I don't know about you, but I didn't swear allegiance to some party. I don't say I pledge allegiance to the Republican Party of the United States of America. I didn't say I pledge allegiance to the Democrats of America and to the goals and aspirations and agenda to which they subscribe. Did you? Our third topic is going to be Media Shield. The law that Chuck Schumer has been trying to get passed rears its unconstitutional head of snakes. And I say that because this is a complete and utter abuse of our system of government. When you have a law that is about to be passed by senators, which says that if you're not a journalist, you don't have First Amendment rights, and your right of Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate yourself has been stripped from you, the vote, if it's held, is out and out treason. First Amendment rights aren't granted to you by the government. Those who foolishly believe that government can limit or delegate them are simply damn fools, with no regard to wisdom or knowledge of history. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. You can ignore the history of our founding at your own peril and mine, because God only knows if they'll qualify me as a journalist, or your other favorite talk show hosts, or your favorite other article writers or authors or publishers. If you think the ministry of propaganda is twisted now, just wait until this little tidbit of tyranny takes hold, and it's going to hang on like a pit bull. The truth is that we are under no obligation to follow those laws, which are unconstitutional, on their face. Our fourth topic is going to be a brand new term which I have coined. It's called cop-holgers. It's a new term for the police state. It's a term that will represent accurately the people involved. They're not cops. They're not soldiers. They're cop-holgers. And basically, what we have is a nation that has now become a paramilitary police state. We have the equivalent of the brown shirts of the Nazi era living amongst us. We have them on a national level. We have them on a state level. We have them on a regional and a local level. And you're just unaware of it or unwilling to admit the truth. These people come armed to the teeth, and they botch raids constantly. They kill innocent people. More Americans have been killed by cop-holgers since 9/11 than have been killed in Iraq. So let's understand what we're talking about here. The number of Americans that have been killed in paramilitary police raids by law enforcement and by law enforcement in general serving warrants and what have you exceeds the total number of U.S. soldiers killed in Iraq. And it almost exceeds the total number of U.S. soldiers killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a national epidemic on our hands. And no one's talking about it. Shh. We're not going to talk about it. Because if we do, the truth will be out. DHS has become that which we abhor. An armed military in our presence on our domestic homeland. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. And everything else you hear to the contrary is a bald-faced lie. Cop-holgers are killing Americans. Guilty and innocent alike. They have absolutely zero regard for truth. All right, let's break into our first topic this morning. We are going to discuss the teachers union deal. This is posted up on our Facebook page. You can find that by going to facebook.com/America's Voice Now. That's facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can also find every program that we do on our podcast service, which is run by Spreaker. And if you would be so kind, I would appreciate it if you would click the like button on Spreaker, or the follow button, I should say, because that enables us to gather enough listeners that we can get onto iHeartRadio, which will dramatically improve and expand our program. All right, so there's a teachers union deal out there, which in a Michigan school district, which this was originally extended until the year 2017, and it specifically discriminates against Christians, white people, and men. And it does so in the actual very text of the contract itself. I mean, again, you cannot create a contract that's if I drew up a contract, an employment contract, that said, you can only be hired in this company if you're white. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the outrage? Can you imagine the national media coverage that would descend on that employer? This is the Ferndale Public School. First of all, the fact that it's a public school ought to create outrage nationwide, because here you have a contract on a public school forum sponsored, created, and developed by a union, and it establishes that non-Christians, racial minorities, and women receive special priority in the hiring decisions. Now, this is an affirmative action. I mean, you could get away with that, even though the Supreme Court has given every indication that they want to step away from affirmative action and they want to eliminate it. They realize that affirmative action was a mistake, and rather than admit their mistake, which would be the right thing to do, what they have done is they've said, we believe the time for affirmative action is gone by us. In other words, it's past, and it's no longer helpful. The truth is, affirmative action is a bad idea, just like prohibition was a bad idea. But anyway, this agreement gives special consideration to women and or minorities defined as Native American, Asian American, Latino, African American, and those of non-Christian faith. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the actual verbiage in their text. That is the contract statement itself, in quotes. I'm going to give it to you again, because you should be outraged. In fact, every teacher in the nation, every school system, every citizen, and every media outlet should be throwing flags on this place so that they fly in the air like confetti after a Super Bowl. Quote, special consideration shall be given to women and or minorities defined as Native American, Asian American, Latino, African American, and those of the non-Christian faith. Now, the Daily Caller is where this originally came out, and they went to the Mackinac Center and said, hey, what's up with this deal you guys have here? And the district immediately opted to remove the language from their contracts. Really? So a spokesman for the school district told the the Daily Caller that the language was antiquated. I'm sorry, that's a complete and open violation of the law. It's not antiquated. It exposes and expresses the current mentality of the left and the liberal progressive media, and the liberal progressive attitudes of unions and the school systems in general, because they don't want individuals who will openly expose and point out what's going on in our school systems, including the treason of Common Core. And it is treason. If you haven't recently looked on our website or on our Facebook page, I would encourage you to do so. And the reason I say that is because we, and I have a lot of other folks that post stuff up on our Facebook page for me because it's just too much for one person to handle. But there was a recent article, or a number of different posts about items that were up on Common Core right out of their workbooks. And we have stuff that's posted up all the time about this. But one of them, in particular, really should have made it clear to everyone exactly how treasonous Common Core really is. And I use the word treason because I intend to. You see, the real reality of Common Core is that it is a very, very dangerous, treasonous statement. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you an example. This is right out of a workbook from Common Core. And then they're referencing the Bill of Rights, and they're talking about how they're summarizing what the Bill of Rights is. Now, the truth is, any school worth its salt wouldn't summarize and paraphrase the Bill of Rights any more than you would paraphrase what a biblical passage says. I mean, it's one thing to use it in a quote, you know, while you're a pastor up on a pulpit, and you say, hey, you know, what this passage says is this, and you paraphrase it. But even pastors read straight from the book. Here's what it says on the Bill of Rights related to the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. If this doesn't throw you into a tizzy, nothing will. It says, this amendment states that people have the right to certain weapons, providing that they register them and they have not been in prison. The founders included this amendment to prevent the United States from acting like the British, who had tried to take weapons away from the colonists. Okay. Now look, there's nothing right about that except the date that they have on it of 1791. Everything else is wrong. This amendment states that people have the right to certain weapons. First of all, shall not be infringed actually outshines the phrase certain weapons, and it exposes it as an absolute lie. Providing that they register them and they have not been in prison. Show me anywhere in the Second Amendment where it references that you may have certain weapons only, and or that you have not been in prison. It doesn't say that anywhere. In fact, our founders stated very clearly that no free man shall be denied the right to bear arms. Now, if you have completed a sentence in prison and you are free, then you are a free man. And if you are not a free man, and by virtue of the fact that you have committed a felony in the past, then you should either be locked up for life or you have to be given your gun back. In fact, prior to the 1968 Gun Control Act, when you left prison, you were given your gun back. For the record, the rate of recidivism of those who were given their gun back was extremely low. Nowhere near the rate of recidivism today, but that's because back then people were held accountable for their actions. Now, I defy anyone listening to this broadcast to find any spot where it says that, one, you're entitled to have certain weapons, not others, and secondly, that it is only providing that you register them and that you have not been in prison. Where does it say registration in the Second Amendment? How do you get registration out of shall not be infringed? Are the two not diametrically opposed statements? I thought so. The second sentence is, the Founding Fathers included this amendment to prevent the United States from acting like the British, who had tried to take weapons away from the colonists. Well, with all due respect, anyone worth their salt would immediately recognize that that is a misstatement and a lie. The United States was not doing this so that the government would not take weapons away from the colonists. They did this so that we would have the right to fight back against our own government when it became obvious to all of us that it was operating in tyrannical fashion. Those of you who have not recognized and done something about the fight against Common Core, you have abdicated your responsibility to your children, and that's on you. You see, words matter, folks, and when you've got a contract from a school board that says that the contract is specifically designed to remove from the running a certain group of people, that, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond comprehension. That I mean, the Civil Rights Act doesn't say only minorities are entitled to civil rights. I mean, if you want to talk about equality, which seems to be the new catchphrase of the day with the tyrants in office right now, then you have to recognize that it doesn't necessarily mean and only mean that minorities get special dispensation. Is that not true? The truth is that when you have a phrase in there that says special consideration shall be given to women and or minorities defined as Native American, Asian American, Latino, African American, and those of the non-Christian faith. I mean, did we forget about Icelanders? I mean, are they entitled to special consideration? Oh, well, they're white. That's the problem, I see. The spokesman for the school board said, we submitted this language to our legal counsel and it is being removed from the contracts. The district does not discriminate. That's a lie. The truth is, don't tell me that their legal counsel doesn't review these contracts. They do all the time. Nobody picked it up until the media did? Well, if that's the legal counsel that you have, then may I submit that your legal counsel should be fired and new legal counsel obtained. Because clearly you are discriminating. The article goes on to say, as written, it seems that the contract violates several laws. You're kidding. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Michigan voters passed a constitutional amendment prohibiting the consideration of race in public contracts and university admissions. With all due respect, we didn't really, in Michigan, we really didn't need a constitutional amendment that prohibits that, but okay. The law is currently being adjudicated by the U.S. Supreme Court, and experts expect that it will be upheld. Why a law that is a state constitutional amendment that prohibits consideration of race in public contracts and university admissions is being adjudicated by the Supreme Court is beyond my comprehension as well, because the truth of the matter is the Supreme Court is not the final arbiter of the Constitution, and if one state wants to make a law that says we reaffirm human rights and civil rights that no one can be discriminated against, that would be that state's right. And the Supreme Court has no say in the matter. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to tackle our second topic, and this one's a doozy. GOP and Democrats have the same exact goals: your enslavement. We're going to talk about it because the truth is, nobody can point to the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats anymore. The Republicans can't even draw the division line. You know why? Because there is none. There is no difference. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Please find us live on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can also find each and every program that we do hosted up on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. You can listen to the program live on Patriot FB by going to patriotfb.com. You can become a member there. It's kind of like a Facebook clone for Patriots, and it's a great place to visit. I'm sure that you'll appreciate it. Okay, when we return, you can also contact me, by the way, direct at mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. We'll return in just a moment.